Welcome back to the Bullpen Mafia. We got the whale Toad. We got the a guest that needs no introduction for our fan base, our listeners. Obviously, someone that we had circled, and thanks to our good buddy Giancarlo Devito, the Legend of Dade,
the Legend of Dade,
who made this happen. We have Dontrelle Willis in the building. So I don't even know if my background prep and what I'm going to say even does it justice, because I think if you're listening to this podcast, you saw it with your own eyes, and you don't need to hear what I'm about to say. But NL Cy Young, World Series, not Cy Young, sorry, second place in the Cy Young voting, NL Rookie of the Year in 2003 World Series champion, Dontrelle Willis. Dontrelle, thanks for joining the Mafia, man. Really appreciate it.
Super honored and super excited, and I've been following and watching, and so I'm just a biggest fan of you guys as you guys are of me. So I really appreciate it, man. And we're gonna have a good time today. So I'm super excited.
Love that.
Dontrelle, we got business to handle before we get started. I know, Giancarlo, this is your opportunity to sort of set the record straight, bro. So go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw we each picked our 3 favorite Marlins, bro. We had a post where just picking 3 in itself is tough, dude. Right. And I'm all about kind of like the low key choices, so I didn't want to pick an obvious one, bro. And before I knew it, it was over, and we looked at the list, and D-Train was not on anybody's. And little did I know that was gonna become, dude, I was public enemy number 1 for about a year. People wanted to come at my head. The DMs were full, bro. People were appalled. So, dude, this is me kind of just making it right, bro. And I'm here to say, bro, you were the 4th one, man.
Listen, I really appreciate that. And you listen, I get paid to make lists all the time, and people come at my throat. So welcome. Now you're in the media world. So that's the beauty of it. But nevertheless, you know what? I appreciate this being anybody's number on anybody's list. So thank you, bro. But you're good by me, big dog. But I'll squash that at Flanagan's when I see you in person. We'll squash
that. It's Giancarlo's welcome to the media moment.
Yeah, journalism, Giancarlo. Welcome.
D-Train, as a guy with a nickname myself, D-Train for Dontrelle is one of the most iconic nicknames in all of Major League Baseball, definitely Marlins history. I want you to tell me what you think about the nickname Toad for somebody.
You know what? It all depends on how the person that receives a nickname, how they go about it. Now, Toad, I hope it's not someone that's stealing someone's hubcaps or anything like that. Like a good energy, like this dude's like a badass. This dude's a dog, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, I just hope Toad is not someone that is a guy that's stealing people's golf balls on the fairway.
Well, you're talking about me, so thank you very much.
Oh, man.
How you wear it and really the background of it as well.
You can't pick your nicknames, but you can embrace them. That's my personal belief on all that.
It's crazy because like AJ Burnett gave me the name D-Train, and I hated it because I really didn't want to be singled out. You know what I mean? And so and D-Train from where I'm from in California is a totally different meaning, but nevertheless, so again, I didn't like it, and so I asked him finally, well, why you keep calling me that? And he's like, man, we're gonna go as far as you take us. And so
that's awesome.
And next thing you know, the train whistle started coming, and then the cardboard cutout and what have you, and the what you talking about Willis signs came, and it's funny because a lot of people, even to this day, like, they'll call me D-Train and they'll be like, hey, Dante. And I'm like, that's not my name. You know what I mean? It stuck with me so much that people when they automatically see me, they're like, you're the guy that does the late kick, or you're the D-Train. Like, so, I wore it and I ultimately love it. And even my daughter, she's a soccer player, and everyone calls her B-Train, and she loves it. And so
wow, awesome. There you go. It'll last forever, man. The generations of the train it ain't ending, dude.
I feel sorry for Toad Jr.
Toad, now that D-Train shared his story, you're gonna share how the hell somebody started calling you Toad?
Sure. Well, my last name is Todorov, so it's
a brief
abbreviation of my full last name. But this one guy in high school, George Menical, he'd call me Toad the Load because I wouldn't call myself a class clown because my dad would be pretty upset if I described myself as a class clown.
Safe space.
But there was times where I was troublesome in the classroom, so I was a load to handle. So they'd call me Toad the Load. But then my dad, when I was going off to Florida State, my dad gave me some of his vintage college stuff that he wore, and in that bag was his intramural flag football T-shirt. And guess what was on the bag?
Toad.
There
you go.
So
Written in the stars.
Written in the stars. Full circle moment.
Toad and D-Train, dude. That's all we need.
Two of the best nicknames in South Florida.
Oh man. So D-Train, I on the intro, I didn't talk about some of your accolades just because obviously they speak for themselves. We're minor leaguers at heart on this podcast. PD and I definitely paid our dues. You were drafted straight out of high school. You mentioned that you were committed to Arizona State, drafted in the 8th round by the Cubs. You're part of a big deal, right? Right at the outset of your career. You're part of a trade that involves some major leaguers, something that, as a prospect is something difficult to understand, right? You go to a whole new organization, you go to the Florida Marlins, you rocket through your system. 2003, you make your debut. But I think something we always love to ask our guests, talk to us about your major league call up. How did you find out? What was that like? How was it, to call your friends and family, let them know that, 3 years after being drafted, you're going to make your major league debut at 21 years old for the Florida Marlins?
It's kind of fitting to the personality of who I am. It was kind of a shit show. So we're in Orlando. This is a real story too. We're in Orlando. We have an off day. I think we're drinking Natty Ice in Miguel's room. Miguel's a prospect at this point, so he's the only one on the team that has money. You know what I mean? Like he comes into it where he doesn't have to eat $2 tacos and try to pitch 90s and stuff like that.
So true.
Yeah. So I was in big league camp that spring, and so Brad Penny's just calling me on my Nokia Snake phone like crazy, you know what I mean? And he's like, where are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm in my room. And he's like, man, go to your room right now. They're trying to call you. So I wasn't in my room, but they're calling me in my room in my hotel. So then all of a sudden I get there and David Sampson's calling me with his voice. He's like, hey, Dontrelle, how you doing? This cool stuff, cool. And so I'm in trouble. And so all of a sudden, we're going to call you up to pitch against the Rockies. And so my heart just drops and everyone kind of looks at me. I remember Randy Messenger was with me, a couple other guys that just ran in the room. And so I told everybody. And the one thing I do remember about it is how happy everybody was. And so, you're in the bushes in the minor leagues, you know what I mean? You're sharing sandwiches, you're eating, doing whatever you can, you're using the scrubbing bubbles to share, the whole nine, so how the joy from everybody, how happy they were. And then the next thing I thought of was man, I only have $40. How the hell am I going to go to Miami? So everybody stuff like that. And I got on a crop Orlando to Miami, and and it just hit me when I landed. I'm like, oh shit, I faced the Colorado Rockies, and this is when they had Todd Helton and Larry Walker, Castillo. It's like, oh my God. And I think the game before, I watched it at my hotel in Fort Lauderdale, and they killed the Marlins 15-2, something crazy. So I'm like, Lord Jesus, this is I mean, and so. But I just remember the energy and the joy of not only my teammates in the minor leagues being happy for me, but when I finally got in the major league uniform, a lot of the big league guys were very happy because I had experience with them in spring training, like the Juan Pierres and the D-Lees, and they were fired up for me. And so it was really cool to just have that energy and say, that elation to be like, man, I finally made it to the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we keep hearing about and through all our conversations, and Toad has brought this up on air, is you're genuinely so happy for your teammates when they make it to the major leagues because it's such a difficult grind. You talked about some of the stuff, you not eating the best food, you're living in and out of a duffel bag, and your one goal and everybody's goal in that locker room, and a lot of guys you're competing with to get to that goal, make it to the major league. So it's so cool that you were in that environment. I mean, I can only imagine getting that phone call. I mean, I can put myself in that situation, yo, run to your room, dude. And now we had cell phones, so they're calling your cell phone, but to go to your room to pick up that's unbelievable, man. It's so cool.
It's nuts. It was really, really cool experience, and I'll never forget this though. When we calmed down, Miggy was like, I'll see you soon. And to be honest, we all felt like it should have been him. Like, I mean, at the time, I think he was hitting like 436 in double A. I mean, you can look this up, like no cap. Like he was hitting like 436 in double A. Like it was like this guy doesn't deserve to be here, but he was sincerely happy for me to be able to achieve my dream. And then, a month later, he gets called up, and the rest was history for him.
It's awesome.
Unreal. I know that Giancarlo, the Legend of Dade teacher, I know you see all his stuff, man. This guy's got so many videos loaded up and ready to go at a moment's notice. So I know he wanted to take the next question and talk a little bit about those first couple months in the big leagues.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Dontrelle Mania, like you talked about, like the cutouts with the trains and people out there. I even saw a video like Craig Minervini's like interviewing a dude, and he's like, "How long did it take you to put this train together?" And the guy's like, "Oh, it took us 72 hours to put this train together." Like on some crazy. Bro, like obviously you knew you had what it take to make it to the big leagues, and you knew you were a big leaguer at that point. But when did you notice that you were the guy, bro? Like you were gonna be above average, bro? Was it something that you knew in the minor league level, or like when you got there and went through it, was is that like, you know what, bro? I'm not just a major leaguer, but I'm the dude, bro. You're like, I'm a beast.
I always had the work ethic of being the dog because I was never the best player, if that makes sense. Like, I mean? I was always surrounded by people that I could recognize that were more talented than me. When I was with the Cubs, before I got traded to the Marlins, I watched Carlos Zambrano and Mark Pryor throwing double A. I was like, bro, I need to get a job because I don't have anything that they possess. Like, you know what I mean? So, but in turn, it made me outwork everyone. Like I was always the guy running polls, always the guy lifting, always the guy, asking questions about grips and what have you. And I think it got me ready because I wasn't really ready for just the Miami buzz. Like no one understands like the South Florida buzz. Like when a team or a player is on, there's no city that rivals it. Like I was there when D-Wade showed up. I was there when Shaq showed up. Like it is like we are all in like in South Florida. And so my call up, and then all of a sudden the team started to turn around, and I'm running around like I'm just a normal dude at like ale houses, and I can't even eat because people are running up on me. Like, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
It was just nuts, and I was so like incredibly thankful. And like if you ever get to meet me in person, my personality is the same like on this podcast. Like I'm like, yeah, what's up, bro? Like let's get like, you know what I mean? So that kind of played into more of the Dontrelle D-Train mystique because they're like, oh, he's one of us. Like, you know what I mean? Like you would see me in Hialeah. It's like I saw D-Train in Hialeah. It's like I was just around. Like I just wanted to be a part of the city, and so to have that type of run and really help like propel the team in the right direction, it was second to none. I always get a chance to see Pudge, who's a hero and obviously a go to mine in a Hall of Famer, and he says we don't win without Dontrelle, establishing that culture, establishing that we're respected and we're good, and so when the fans started coming back, you saw the evolution of Josh Beckett. You saw all of a sudden Derek Lee, be the Gold Glove caliber player. You saw Mike Lowell, but all these guys have been good. It was just a weird thing to be kind of singled out. But, I thank God I was with that run. And so I love all those guys because they really put their arm around me to like kind of like protect me and just teach me the right way of how to handle all of this and be a good teammate as well. So, but it was fucking crazy. It was nuts. It was
Dontrelle, awesome. One thing I think that spoke to sort of the mania. I mean, Miami's an event town, right? If people will go to the event that is happening, if the event's on a Wednesday night, Tuesday night, people will be there. They will show up.
A couple months ago, people were driving up an hour and a half from Miami for hockey. Okay,
right?
So
that's you.
Event-driven town. Miami gets a lot of flack for not being a great sports town, but hey, if the team is playing well and that's the event to be at that particular night, people will show up. I think one game in particular sticks out for us. You against Randy Johnson, man, that was electric. I know I called my brother yesterday because I want to make sure my brother's like, we were there. 37,000 people. I think it was a Wednesday night in the middle of the summer. You against Randy Johnson, like, what was that like? That had to be one of your idols, right? Obviously with the mechanics and the funkiness, that was one of the guys you probably looked up to. What was it like taking them out against Randy Johnson?
It's all that stuff to me now that I get a chance to reflect back on it. It's all outer body. It's all outer body. It's like you see the lineup card and it's like Willis versus Johnson. Like, get the hell out of here with that. Get out of here with that. And it's like the see him warm up. Like, I remember I was playing catch, but I almost got busted in the face 10 times because I'm trying to watch him. And so it was just surreal. And to be honest with you, the energy in that stadium, it felt like a postseason game. Like it was people during batting practice. I'm like, oh man, like I could feel the energy. Like, and to be honest, like, you know, it felt like Miami like wanted this game. Like, we want this game. Like, this is like a coming out party for us. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the hell with Dontrelle. This is about us. Like, you know what I mean? This is about us to show like how we can get it rocking. And me and Randy went toe to toe. I actually lived by him for a long time in Arizona, and he remembers it. I mean, this is a guy that struck out 9,000 freaking people and won 9,000 games, and like he remembers that. And so he, after the ball game, he calls over and we talked for like 15 minutes. It's about pitching. This is about pitching, and
That's so
this
cool.
is Randy Johnson. This is a guy that's a feared left-handed. You know, the Movato's like, I'll kill everybody. I killed a bird. Like, you know what I mean? Like. For him to, you know, put his arm around me, I think it spoke to this, like him asking, like, what kind of kid is he? Like, how does he handle all of this? You know what I mean? And so, but the vibe was dope. We went toe to toe, and it was just great energy, man. And to hear that standing ovation coming off that mound, it was truly electrifying, and it really boosted my confidence to say, hey, man, I can play in this type of ball game and be successful.
So definitely that game gave you an edge going into the postseason with that team that you knew for a fact that you can go to toe with anybody. D-Train, big unit, the Rocket, bring it on. And you probably yourself, you carried that confidence along with your teammates as well going into the postseason.
I think it was important, and it wasn't just about me. I thought we all performed well in that stage, because that was kind of like the first game where like it was like, okay, we got a nice sized crowd. We're in our own house. We're going up against one of the best arms of all time, still in his prime. You know what I mean? They got a good ball club, so it's like, hey, we got to show up and play well tonight. You know what I mean? And so there was certain ball games, there were certain moments where it was like guys showed up and made plays, but to be totally honest, in the dugout, it was like, this is what Gonzo and Louis been doing. They've been turning double plays. They've been throwing the ball behind the back and doing these crazy plays. It was just, now we're on Sports Center and we're leading Sports Center. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like a clip. No, it's like, hey, these fish are for real. And so it was really fun to see guys really kind of come into their own and develop, and because we needed every single soul on that team to win a World Series. Everybody had the factor, so it was nice to see that.
Do you stay in close contact with the 2003 team? Is there a secret 2003 group chat that's talking smack and saying?
I can't tell you the number, but it's fun, man. It's fun, man. Like it's fun. I mean, AJ's AJ. You know what I mean? Like, everything you see as a fan, that's who he is. Josh is still the same. Brad's still catching fish on boats and stuff like that. They're all the same. You know what I mean? They're but it's nice to see them be like dads now. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. And they all, every single body, especially Miguel, they love texting me while I'm on air and telling me how I love it. They all love still giving me crap. And so that's how it was in the locker room. Like, I was the little brother to everybody. Even Lenny Harris still, he said, your tie's crooked and you're ugly. I'm like, it's really a tight, and when you go through battles like that, even if you're in the minor leagues, like, you form a bond because you realize that, like, this dude that doesn't come from my same background gives a shit about me. He cares about my success. And so there's no monetary value for that.
D-Train, a fellow left-handed pitcher here, man. So I don't know if you could tell here, I got a little hat tilt today, but I want to get into a little bit about your mechanics. I work, my son's 7, he loves the game. I work a ton of youth clinics, do a lot of lessons around here, and it's funny because you get a lot of guys that come in now, right? And mechanics have changed over the years, and guys have focused on different things. And obviously with your windup and your leg kick, right? Something that, somebody walked into the building tonight and said, hey, coach, what do you think about this? You pull him to the side and probably talk to him a little bit. Hey, I don't think that's going to work for you. Let's try something different. but it obviously, it worked for you. I'm sure from a deception standpoint and everything you did, just, talk a little bit about maybe how that started, or, as the years went on, did anybody try to tinker with that? Just talk about the leg kick a little bit, I guess.
Well, when they started tinkering with it, that's when I started screwing up, to be honest.
True. That's true.
To be totally honest, I'm all about, I'm an avid golfer now, and I truly love it, and I study it all the time. In sports, you can't mess with anybody's athletic ability. You know what I mean? And so if you look at my mechanics and you really break it down frame by frame, once my knee came down from the damn rafters, I really got in the power position. You know what I mean? I really got in really good power positions. And so it was just something that was developed. Like, my torso is literally this big, you know what I mean? And my legs, my ass sits on my shoulders. So, like, for me to get my leg up to that point was very easy to me. But also, I also wanted things like kind of ride down the hill. All the things that people teach, like, you know what I mean? And so all my velocity, all my power, all my strength, once the leg came down, it had a lot of force downhill. And so, like any pitcher, you want them to get downhill and get their arm up top. And so I was able to do that. And so it was just one of those things that just felt very natural to me. And I was athletic enough to where if guys got on base, I worked very hard in the minor leagues to do kind of a slide set thing to really break my hands and get in the power position to get my arm up, to avoid injury and really be able to be consistent. So the one thing I love about the minor leagues is you kind of get to develop. It's a little bit different now in the minor leagues, especially if you're a prospect. But back then, they were like, hey, you got to learn how to go 200 innings. You got to learn how to, complete what you started and really stay healthy. So with that being said, every time I get asked about my mechanics, I'm like, no. No. Like, no, I don't preach it, but it's pretty cool to be at bars and people trying to do the leg kick and and stuff like that. And still see pretty cool.
I bet that ends up well.
We have
everywhere I go, like literally, my friends have a bet. They have an over and under bet of how many people are going to do the leg kick in Vegas. I can't.
That's so awesome.
It's pretty cool. I'm so honored. I really do.
We got the Sheffield bat sort of waggle and the Dontrelle leg kick, man. We got South Florida kids. We got all the.
We were spoiled.
We were spoiled, bro. We're literally spoiled.
Nothing like being out at second base and my dad telling me, "Put your hat straight." I'm like, no,
no, cool anymore, Dad.
Dude, it's so funny, and like, you don't realize the reach that you have as a professional athlete. But I mean, the Anthony Rizzos, the Gio Gonzalez's, the Nick Castellanos. I mean, the Zach Neto. I just met Zach Neto, and he hugged me like I just came back from a war. Like, he was so man. It's like he's like, oh, he said, I used to watch you at Joe Robbie. I said, oh, you really are a fan. You said Joe Robbie, you really are a fan. So it's cool to just have that type of impact and seeing guys still appreciate your game that are impactful in the big leagues right now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. that's it's crazy. And you did it without social media, right? This was an era where, like, dude, you were watching games on TV to watch Dontrelle. It wasn't a clip on Instagram or TikTok. Like, you got to go to Baseball Tonight to watch what Dontrelle did that night. So I think it was, for us being such huge Marlins fans, man, that was just a fantastic era. And I think we're going to lean into 2003 a little bit more, because I think, we talked about it with Giancarlo, and I guess, he must have dropped off with a connection, but 2003 was really the springing board for our fandom, right? And I think if you ask a bunch of kids in South Florida, like, their first favorite team down here was the Marlins, because we had so much success 97, 03. So Dontrelle, that rotation, man, we're digging into the numbers a little bit. All you guys were young. Everybody was under 30 years old, right? You had Beckett, Penny, Redmond, Pavano, so many guys that played such big roles. How was that coming in as a young kid, a 21-year-old into that rotation? And what'd you learn from those guys?
They were dogs. Like, they weren't afraid to compete. They weren't afraid to compete within the strike zone. Now, it's easy to do that when you're, AJ Burnett and Brad Penny and Josh Beckett, who all throw 100. You know what I mean? So,
right.
But we all realized that we could play off each other, if that makes sense. Like, everybody had a different type of fastball. Everybody had a different type of slider. And so when you're on a ball club like that and you're able to throw quality every night, then you feel like you can win the matchup on the mound every night. And so, you know what I mean? So I think the second half of the season, it was expected for us to go at least 6 innings every night and give ourselves a chance to win. And so we fed off each other. We were super close. We were always ragging on each other, on the planes or during BP. It didn't matter. But we talked a lot about baseball, and we realized that we were kind of the tip of the spear. Like, if we played well, then we can win it all. And so we took on that responsibility to go out there and give our ball club a chance. Plus, our defense was elite. So it was like, let's not mess around with these guys and really force the issue to throw strikes and compete. And we played off each other very, very well. So it was really cool to kind of come up under those guys and learn how to play big league baseball.
D-Trent, it's kind of crazy now to hear you say, like, we went out there, you expect to get to 6 innings. I mean, the game's different now, right? Like, do you think that these starters in the big leagues now, do they have that same type of mentality, or is it kind of like hey, like, go out there and give us something quality, and then let's get us to the bullpen. We get some arms out there to take care of the rest.
Well, it's different now because everybody throws 100 out of the bullpen.
True.
The bullpen, you know what I mean? Like 95 is not cool anymore. I say that on air all the time. It's not cool anymore. And so it's a different type of game. So therefore, they're not teaching them in the minor leagues to throw 100 pitches and learn how to stay healthy after that. And it's not just about your arm. It's about your legs, running, things of that nature, which is starting to come back now because the pitch clock is so prevalent. So you got to be able, cardiovascular has to be high. But they're still not teaching the pitch count, in the minor leagues, especially if you're a high-level prospect. See, I was never really a prospect. I was always a suspect at the end of my career. So, and us minor leaguers, we know what that means when you're a suspect.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So, but yeah, like it was just one of those things where, like, when I came up with the Cubs, it didn't matter if you're an A-ball or, double A. If you were a starter and they thought you had value, you had to learn to throw 90 to 100 pitches or 5 innings and above. And so you had to learn that. So that's just where the game was. And so to throw 200 innings was a badge of honor back then. And so I always wanted to, really just target that goal and achieve that goal.
That's awesome.
The leader of the 2003 team, at least in the dugout, was the cigar-smoking Jack McKeon. As a young guy, rookie of the year coming up, new face in the franchise, what was your first conversation with him like? What was he like in the locker room? Some of his speeches before these World Series big playoff games, because we don't know much about that, his relationships with players individually.
Oh, Trader Jack. I mean, he's managed probably 10% of all big leaguers in the history. A savvy old man that just knows the game, loves the game, has devoted his life to the game, has seen it all. I think that's where cool comes from, because he's like, hey, that's not a situation I haven't been in. You know what I mean? And not made mistakes. A big stickler of hard work. He was not messing around about that. Like, if he saw you slacking off in the weight room or not running those poles out, he would walk out there and you could smell that stogie a mile away. You could smell it. Like, you were like, oh man, and he hammered us, especially us pitchers, about working hard, really behind the scenes when nobody's watching, and doing the little things to get yourself ready to win a big league ball game. And so, and he demanded respect. He demanded that. And listen, I think Jack was 75 when he managed us. Like, you know what I mean? So,
Crazy.
Yeah, he like, I'm a granddad, goddamn it. He had that energy. But he, him and Ozzie Guillen were a great balance, because Ozzie still had that mindset to want to manage. Obviously, he managed, but that balance of that coaching staff was perfect, because they bounced a lot of things off each other. But he loved the game, and he would say terms like somebody tried to crash in on a bunt. He'd be like, oh, go out there and knock his teeth out, Big D. It's like, what the hell? Like that. You know what I mean? So I've had a couple really good conversations with him. The best interaction, though, was there's 2 of them. The first one was I was struggling mightily in the playoffs. We finally realized we're going to Yankee Stadium. I figure I'm going to be in bullpen jail, and he never gets up on the plane. Never gets up on the plane. So he finally gets up on the plane, and everybody kind of gives a look like, what the hell?
Uh-oh.
So, me and Juan Pierre always sat next to each other on the plane. We watched Barbershop, the same damn movie on every day. So Jack comes up to me, and so I take off my headphones. And I'm like, Skip, what's up, baby? And he's like, Big D, we don't win this thing without you. And I was like, damn, I didn't think I was going to play, to be honest. I didn't say that. I didn't think I was going to play. And so, still not thinking I'm going to play. And, game one's a tightly contested game. Brad Penny's out there battling, we're in Yankee Stadium. And all of a sudden the phone rings and they say, Willis. And I say, what? Like, meaning like, like what? Like, I go in the bullpen and I throw 8 straight balls, like uncontested balls. All of a sudden I see Jack, running out there and he points to the bullpen. And so I'm walking through this cobblestone thing, and only thing I'm thinking of, this is a true story, I'm thinking like, don't trip with 80 million people watching. I'm not even thinking about the situation I'm about to go into with runners on second and third, you know what I mean? Like, we're up by 1. And so I get to the mound, it's Yankee Stadium. They're all, I think Jason Giambi's at the plate. And he's like, well, D, go get him. And I'm like, that's all you got to say to me? I'm passed out. Like, you know what I mean? And so, but he just believed in me. And I needed that moment in that game for like my career, because I was shell shocked. I was feeling like I was going to let the team down. I was fatigued, just from that long rookie season. And he said, go get him. And that was the hardest I threw all year long. I was like 94 to 96. And Pudge was like, Negro Suave. I'm like, I mean, like, the World Series. Like, Yankees, I want the smoke. Like, you know what I mean? I want the smoke.
Yep.
But this him believing in me really helped me, like, in that moment, to get through that moment and really for the rest of my career.
It's crazy. It's crazy what like the littlest things, right? Even just him getting up on the plane, right? And just pumping your tires for who knows what prompted him to do that. You said he'd never done it before, but I mean, it just goes to show like good coaching and people that believe in you, man, goes a hell of a long way. And I think this kind of leads into our next question. Dontrelle, I know Giancarlo, Toad, and I, we are massive Marlins fans. What was the atmosphere inside that locker room game 6? Beckett obviously throws the CG, but you guys are in New York with a chance to win the World Series. Like, put us inside that locker room if you just can. Paint a picture for us so we can understand the 10-year-old inside of us can put ourselves in that locker room.
Very great question. It was the first time we weren't ourselves, in that sense of like our energy was always like we're always jawing on each other. You gotta understand, between Gonzo, D-Lee, Lenny Harris, I mean, Mr. Marlin in that locker room, everyone's always talking shit. Everyone's always everyone. Like, if it wasn't over dominoes, it was over someone's outfit. Like, everyone's always throwing on each other. But it was like the quiet before the storm. It really was. Like, it was the quiet before the storm. And so I go outside to get ready to do my scouting report and stuff like that and pop all these VHS tapes. That's how old I am. Yes, I said. And so Josh Beckett walks up. He sees me. He's getting ready to go out there to warm up, and he's like, "What's your ring size, son?" And I was like, "Oh, wow." I literally like dropped the tape. I was like, "Oh, I ain't getting this game. It's over." He's about to Texas toast these motherfuckers. Excuse my language. And he did. But when he walked up to me, it was almost like he was insulted that I was gonna try to think I was gonna factor in the game. He's like, "Oh, no. This is done. Like, this is done." It was like, and so literally I had the old Kenny Lofton Nike cleats where you could like tie them and then zip them up.
Yeah, those were hard, man. Those were hard, dude.
I was like, oh, he about to shut them down, bro. I was like, oh, JB about to kill them. And that's a true story. And so Josh was this elite. I mean, and that was kind of like his coming out party in that playoffs, man. Like, he really stepped up and he really started to believe that he was the weapon. And it was just fun to see him develop into really just a big game guy. Everybody's not a big game guy, but Josh, throughout his career after that point, you could tell, you can count on him to really step up in big games. But when he told me what's my ring size, son, I was just like, oh.
Yo, you put that on a shirt, D-Train. You'll sell 1 million of those things, man. Yep. Oh, my God.
Yeah, let's get on it.
Hey, Giancarlo will mock that up right after this episode, man. We'll have those printed tomorrow if you want. Dontrelle, so obviously, 03, 04, but 05 was your best year as a Marlin, right? I think you're second in the Cy Young, unbelievable season, led the majors in wins. From a pitching perspective, how much did you mature in those 2 years? And then, in 2005, you look at that team, and right, some of the pieces had started to move around a little bit. Like there was no longer the 03 Marlins, but you were the bona fide star. How did you kind of graduate from the rookie of the year? You're in the World Series, not knowing if you're going to pitch at that point, and then in 2005, you're the second best pitcher in baseball. What was that transition like?
You know what? I just started to learn how to pitch to contact. I wasn't afraid to compete in the strike zone. And when I talk to guys that are in the big leagues now, they're kind of, the swing and miss is so prevalent. But again, in 05, our defense was still elite. And so I'm like, first of all, I pitch in Miami. It's 115 degrees. I don't even all day, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I started to really develop a really good pitch mix between the sinker and the fastball up to really change eye level. And so I started to play off that, man. And when you win 20 games, it's because your team loves you. They believe in you and they love you, man. And so I just started going on runs. I mean, I went 22-10. I can't tell you the 10 games I lost. Like, it just I won. And so the crowd started to get into it. My teammates started to get into it. I started to hit the baseball and help to win, this sliding head first, all that tired shit that you love and no one loves. But it was just to be out there and have, I think I had 7 complete games, which is like 3 years of complete games now in today's game, And so to see the crowd just really get into it, like, I really love South Florida, like just the fans. And I always took it personal when they said, like, oh, Miami's a small market. I'm like, have you been on the freeway? Like, anywhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like, have you been on the causeway, my G? Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, so to see people really support me and back me was really cool. Also, like, my teammates, like, the Marlins have never had a 20-game winner. So when I started to really get to 17, 18, 19, they were like, hey, we're going to do this. Not just you. We're going to do this for you. And so that just spoke to how they felt about me.
Are you taking 7 complete games or a no-hitter?
Hey, CGs are dope. Like, CGs are dope. Like, but the no, like, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, if I have a no, I'm gonna tell y'all a trade secret. And I said this at Fox, but I'm gonna tell you guys something. If I saw a no in the 7th inning, I would get so tight. I would try to give him. I would just, like, that energy of the last, like, 3 frames is like, you got to make the right pitch. You got to make the right call. Like, you know what I mean? Your defenders got to, I mean, if you look at all the no-hitters we've seen, there's always some play. You're like, how did that dude make that play? Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, so it's destined, but to get that hug from your catcher and to be able to finish a game like that, especially in South Florida where it's hot as hell. Like, it was a lot of Pedialyte mixed with Hennessy for me after that.
D-Train,
yeah,
Javi, real quick, I was just gonna say, D-Train, are you keeping Paul Skeens in that game earlier this year, or are you taking him out in the 7th like they did?
Listen, as a fan, I'm keeping him in, but if he gets hurt, everyone's fired.
Your ass is gone.
I'm talking ball boy. I'm talking bad boy. Fired. Not just the manager. Everyone's done. Like, this is a guy that's going to be the staple of your organization for a very long time, bro. They will throw your ass in Allegheny River. So you got to take him out. You got to take him out.
Dontrelle, sorry, go ahead, Giancarlo.
D, we talked a little bit about 05 when your hitting kind of came to life, and bro, I gotta ask you, bro, which would you single out as your favorite home run in your career? You have a couple of good ones, and we've all seen the ones in New York at Citi Field, but the low key ones that I've talked to you a little bit about was the one in Puerto Rico and the one in Minute Maid in Houston, bro. Talk about those 2 home runs and what those meant to you in your career.
First of all, Puerto Rico, first of all, nothing but love and respect. That is a vibe out there. They love baseball. They're very knowledgeable about baseball. Hotel San Juan goes stupid hard. Like, like the whole vibe. And so I never played winter ball. So to be able to play down there, it was a winter ball vibe. Like people were standing room only. They really weren't rooting for either team. They just wanted to see, you know, Major League Baseball, which is a big deal at that ballpark being so historic and such a big part of the community. But when I hit that thing, I knew it wasn't coming back in San Juan. Hey, you barreled that ball, man. So being down there and playing in that type of environment was absolutely second to none. Second to none. Really, really cool. And I'll never forget it. But that ball I hit in the second deck of Minute Maid, I can tell you this. He fell behind in the count, and he could have threw that ball off the net. I was swinging. Like I was selling out. And he threw it middle. And as soon as I hit it, I just knew it was gone. And I remember Carlos Delgado saying, "Negro tan fuerte." I was so, yo, but you know, this moments like that, and see, you guys are really avid fans. Like people come up to me and they ask me questions about that. So when I tell them the truth about, hey, I was going to swing at it no matter where he threw it at, you know, it just makes it human. So those home runs were cool, but every time I hit a home run against the Mets, I loved it because I loved it. I love killing the Mets. My neighbors next to me on both sides were diehard Mets fans and would wear Mets shit to go watch me pitch. Like, these are my neighbors. You know what I mean? So to crush those guys in their home confines, man, was fun because obviously you guys know that the New York South Florida rivalry it runs deep.
No love lost there.
Yeah.
You know, I think we've talked so much about the Marlins and about your career there. And I think one of the days that obviously Toad and I and Giancarlo, I know, stings and kills us is the trade, right? Because I think at that point in your career, you were the D train that the world knew and loved, right? You were the ace of the staff. You were the bona fide superstar in the Florida Marlins. You and Miguel Cabrera get moved to the Detroit Tigers. Did you have any inkling that trade was going to go down? How were you sort of made aware of it? And what were your feelings towards it? I mean, obviously it was a massive trade, big prospects moved, and we see those trades happen, but make it real for us from the player standpoint. I know from the fan standpoint, from diehard fans, man, that absolutely crushed us.
It crushed me and Miggy too. But, you know, it's one of those things where, like, even when I talk to Marlins players now, when I just got to see them a couple months ago, I'm like, this is the business model of this team. This is how they sustain it. You know what I mean? They develop really well. They scout talent really well. They land on trades. And, you know, they kind of cycle them out once they, you know, the player prices himself out. Now, you know, being one of the captains of the team, we always heard our names in trades and stuff like that. I remember being in the car watching Aventura. It's like, you still on the team? I'm like, you heard something? Because you always in a trade talk because you were valuable, like, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And so Miguel handled that stuff better than I did, and that's part of his kind of a success because his personality, he just goes out there and plays, and, you know, he just takes it as it is, you know. We've never read the paper, but it was just the fans because the experience of the team, generation after generation, it was like every time we get a good player and they establish themselves, they go to another team and kick our ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I finally found out about it, I was in Mexico and saw my face on some Spanish sports. Like, I was in Mexico, like in Cabo, and I was like, I think I got in trouble or I got traded.
Did I get arrested last night? What happened?
Yeah. No BS. I was in Mexico when I found out about it, and so I was like, well, it's snowing in Detroit, so they're gonna have to wait for me to get up there. But
Wow.
yeah, I was super upset though. I was super upset because, you know, I love the Marlins and I love South Florida. I lived there in the off season at the time. You know, I was a part of the community, not just for baseball reasons, but you know, being around doing camps and what have you. And so, you know, it felt like you're going to a different high school your senior year. You know what I mean? You're like, man, I got to figure out all this other new stuff. And, you know, am I going to fit in and what have you? So that, trust me, me and Miguel were very upset. Most people in the United States go from Detroit to Miami, not from Miami to Detroit. You know, purposes, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. But it was tough, man. It was tough, but we didn't have any inkling. It's just when it happened, you know, I got a call from Mike Hill, and, you know, I think it was hard for them too. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a cold-blooded business, but, you know, we were their babies. Like, we came up in the minor leagues and we won a championship. And some All-Star games. So deep down, now that I talked to Mike Hill and some of the people that are involved in it, that they knew, they were like, man, it was a tough trade to do, but it happens and it's part of sports.
So a week and a half ago, we experienced the same thing. Maybe not as dramatic of a trade deadline, but just the sheer amount of trades that the Marlins completed in about 2 weeks ago was unheard of. As a fan, as an analyst, how would you rate those trades? How would you rate the direction of the franchise? And do you think there's any realistic opportunity for Marlins fans to be excited for the next couple of years?
Yes, I believe how many prospects they accumulated that are in the top 50. I was very impressed about. Like, I was like, okay, usually when they do these trades, it's like you might get one high level prospect that can help you be impactful in the next 12 to 16 months. And then the rest are like A-ball guys. It's like, okay, this is a long way out. Like, you know what I mean? And we're not sure they're going to make it to the big leagues. I think they have enough prospects that are going to be impactful. The thing about it is the minor leagues is not the big leagues, you know what I mean? And they're in a very, very difficult division. And so you have the Braves, you have the Phillies, you have the Nationals that's starting to make a turn with guys that are talented, that are impactful, with Abrams and company. So it's always been that way. The NL East has always been a dogfight. You know what I mean? They've always had guys that you have to learn how to score. You have to learn how to pitch. And you look at the rotation where, Sandy's going to be healthy, Prez is going to be healthy, next year. You see Cabrera finally come back, and you see these glimpses of the rotation. You're like, okay, good, we got arms, but how the hell are we going to score? You know what I mean? You got to be able to score, you know what I mean? So it's tough, man. It's the business model. Jazz, when I talked to him, he kind of gave me this smile, like, you've been through it. I'm like, man, I don't want to dry snitch, but I don't think you're gonna be here long enough. You like, and because you're valuable and you're fun to watch. And so, listen, as a guy that's been through it, but I'm a fan. My heart bleeds for South Florida every time it happens. It bleeds, man, because it's a business model, and that's how they look at it, but it builds that wall of distrust to the fans. And it's like, oh, here we go again. And it sucks because that stadium's beautiful. That was the one thing I told everybody. I was like, man, they did a good job of this stadium. Like, I mean, it's loud. I mean, it has 15,000 people, but it sounds like it has 40,000 people. Like they're itching to have a product that's sustainable, like everybody else in the division seems to have. And why don't we have this? We deserve it just as much as everybody else. I mean, it's Miami. You know what I mean? Like, my heart bleeds, man. And you just hope that these prospects land and sustain and stay healthy, because the business model is you don't have to pay them $30 million. You know what I mean? And they can be impactful. I think when me and Miguel got traded, I was making $4 million and he was making $7 million. I mean, shit. Like, you look at that now.
That's half the payroll now.
Trade them. And so, yeah, we bought a lot of meals for our clubhouse. Trust me, we bought a lot of meals. But as a fan, it really hurts my heart. So I hope that some more prospects emerge as stars in a Marlins uniform.
Yeah, Giancarlo, you want to add? Sorry.
Yeah, D, I mean, we talked about like the city, like Miami, like getting behind a player specifically, not just the team. And I can just think off the top of my head the times where I think that's happened is not a lot. I think about Livan Hernandez when the Livan Mania happened, where the team really felt connected, or the city really felt connected to him. I think about you with, like you said, the cutouts, and I feel like you mentioned, like, forget D-Train, the team, the fans are here to see the team, but I disagree. I think that you had a big part in the city really getting behind that 03 team, especially early on in the regular season. And the other player I think of is Jose. Like, I feel like Jose had a unique bond with the city, and I know you've met him before. I want to see if, what type of relationship you had with him, if, any Jose stories you can share with us, and what you really thought about him as not just a person, but a player. And the effect he had in Miami.
Oh, great question. First and foremost, he pitched against DeGrom on my first bobblehead day. It's probably the largest crowd that the Marlins have had at their stadium. I don't quote me on it, but I think it's one of the largest crowds. He's getting a haircut with my man Hugo Juice, who's my family, who's my brother, who I owe so much to. So Juice is just blowing me up saying, hey, Jose's looking for you. And I don't like bothering people on their start day, you know what I mean? Because that's their day. And so all of a sudden I come in his locker room and he's got hair all over him. He just jumps up and hugs me. You know what I mean? And so that's the beginning of our relationship. And everybody said I had to meet him because they said he's a Latin you. And what they meant by that was his energy was this infectious. Like everything about him was this fast and happy. And he really took and relished the responsibility of being a Latin player in South Florida and being an ace. And he was must-see TV. And so we exchanged numbers and we text like probably 3 to 4 times a week. And then 2 months later, he passed away. And so my heart bleeds every time I see that photo that we took. My heart bleeds every time I see a highlight of him because, you know, the loss of life for everybody that was involved, first and foremost, but his energy and what he was going to be, like what he was going to be, not only as a player, but that lightning rod. He was going to surpass me. He was going to surpass Josh. As much as I love Sandy, and I was so proud that he won the Cy Young, Jose's personality was so infectious that you wanted to see him even if you weren't a fan of baseball. You know what I mean? It was just what he was. And he wasn't afraid of anybody. He was out there dancing, and to see his mom, you know what I mean, so proud of her baby, you know, and him being from Tampa, you know, right down the road and what have you. This is our guy. Like, this is our guy. And so, and to be honest with you, nobody in the league wanted to face him. Nobody wanted to see the Brave. That was the only guy I've seen the Atlanta Braves be pissed off at. Like, he was the only guy. He was the only guy because he was that good. Like, he was that good. He was going to let you know he was that good. And so I miss him so dearly. I think about what it could have been if he would have been around. But he was just a joy to text. And, Negro, you see my game tonight? Yes, I did. Oh, yeah, I saw you. I got 13 people, man. We all saw it. But how proud I was of him, man. You know, because, you know, regardless if you're in sports or not, you know, you need to hear that type of affirmation, man. And so he said I was his hero. I told him you need to work on your heroes a little bit better. But again, he will be missed by a lot, and he's missed by me.
I think that's sort of, you know, just back-to-back questions. It's sometimes tough being a Marlins fan. I said this before, but it's like gut punch after gut punch, right? Like we kind of break the team down after winning. Then you have what seemed like a future Hall of Famer, you know, trajectory. Jose Fernandez passes away. D-Train, you've been on with us for 50 minutes, man. We cannot thank you enough. I want to give you an opportunity to, you know, let us know what you're doing now. I know you're working for the Dodgers. You're working for Fox. You're all over TV. Man, whenever you turn on a baseball game on national television, D-Train's got something to say. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing, where we can find you, and plug up your socials.
Oh, no. First of all, I appreciate it, man. I love doing this type of stuff. I'm at Apple TV. I've been blessed to be at Fox Sports. I'm a special assistant to the farm director for the Dodgers, which we're still trying to work out what the hell that really means. But, and obviously I work on television for the Dodgers, but I'm just incredibly thankful and blessed that the game I know and love continues to take me in the right direction. It saved my life, so I'm incredibly indebted to it. And I still love the game of baseball like I still play. I still can do the leg kick. Yes, I get asked that. It's a little bit lower than it was when I was younger, but I can still do it. I still get goosebumps when I walk on a field getting ready for a game call. I still watch my Marlins, even though now I live in Arizona, so they come on around 4 o'clock. So I got to kind of balance, you know, the pickups for the kids and stuff around watching them. But yeah, I've been doing a television thing for about 10 seasons now. And I enjoy it just as much as I enjoy playing the game of baseball. But as far as being on this podcast, super honored. This is a great interview. I love that I see the old school F hats now that are cool, you know what I mean? And
bring it back, man. You got to bring the teal back.
The teal.
Yeah. We've been pushing for it. I know Giancarlo's making a big push, but I think from our standpoint, man, the Bullpen Mafia, Toad and I, Eric, Giancarlo, we're massive Marlins fans, and I think, you know, we're indebted to you for, giving us some of the best years of our childhood, man. Seriously, watching baseball in the 2003 to 2007 Florida Marlins was a treat. It was a joy, and we're totally honored to have you here today. I think you brought a lot of households together, man. South Florida was a much better place when Dontrelle Willis was pitching for the Florida Marlins. That's for damn sure. But D-Train, we want to let you know, when you got a house with the Mafia whenever you want, man. You got a home here with the guys whenever, whatever you need, whatever we can do for you. And there's probably not much we can do. We can send you some cool merch, but you got a home with the Mafia, man. We really appreciate you.
I'll hold you to that merch, bro. I'm down with that.
Hey, talk to my guy Toad. Toad's
I
on
got
the way.
you. I got you.
I want it signed by Toad too. I want all. But hey, listen. Nevertheless, God bless you guys, man. Thank you so much. Keep doing good work, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, D-Train.
Thanks, D-Train.
Take care.